Well, hello guys, welcome back. I'm going to warn you that before you unsub, listen to the whole damn video because this is not going to turn out the way you think it's going to. I spent the day researching folkish heathenry. Now, why did I do that? I know people already stopped watching and unsubbing, but we don't need them anyhow. Sometimes when you run a channel or whatever you run, you're gonna have people come in that, working with the Norse gods, Germanic gods, however you want to call them, is a delicate topic. White people that work with them, and we're using the term loosely here, um, are often branded as racist and white supremacist. So, to oversimplify things, anybody that works with them, whether they pick up the term as a true heathenist or whatever, usually basically breaks down into two camps. They either say that all people of all colors and races can work with the gods, or they say, no, I don't think you should. I think you should go work with your ancestral gods. Problem being that in the latter group, there's always a few racist people who use the religion to promote racial intolerance. Okay, we all together here. And if you are welcoming, sometimes every so often you will get somebody from non-European descent and they will have a definite chip on their shoulder. And you're like, okay, I get it. All the places I've gone, I haven't always been welcome. Fine. I don't get your exact story because I'm not you, but I understand. You may have not been welcomed in every group, but it's to me, it's worth not birth if you work with any god. I don't care who you work with or what color you are, where they come from. If they're calling you, that's the business of the deity. That's how I look at it, full stop. But some people have a chip on their shoulder. And they will, this individual had acted out over the last year or so, however long they were here. It seems like forever. And every so often they would act up and I'd make a video explaining why that wasn't right. And they would go always in their explanation, oh, it's okay, but you don't understand what it's like being me and, jumping behind being a minority and making, kind of implying that if I didn't let them stay, I was a racist person. Now, that is unfair. I think we can all agree it's unfair. It's just like any other group you would have. If someone would come in and they would say, I get to behave as horribly as I want, and then I'm going to hide behind whatever I think you can't kick me out for. Like, say, I'm gay, so, like, let's say they're gay and you have all straight people, and this gay person comes in and behaves horribly. As a gay person, I would say kick them out. But, they might play upon your reluctance to be called homophobic and say, well, you're not homophobic, are you? And you'll keep letting them come to meetings, and they're a horrible, shitty person. I know, because there are horrible, shitty people in the gay community. And, so forth and such not. Sometimes people will unfairly play the one card they know they have. And they got kicked off the channel not because of the color of their skin or anything else, but because of their behavior. They would say nasty things, they would say unsupportive things. And then they would jump behind that, and it was always implied that if you ever kick me off the channel, you're a racist. Do you know how many racists attacked this channel when I first started? Do you know how many people I had telling me that I was an insult to my ancestors because I wasn't automatically, starting to hang up certain flags behind me, and I wasn't, talking about the Aryan nation or something? Do you know how hard it was for me starting this channel out? And that was part of the attention too. I thought, son of a bitch, you make a welcoming, inclusive channel, and then this is the shit you get in return as thanks. Because I said early on, and I will say it today, if tomorrow I came on and said that this was, and I know there's going to be unsubs, if I came on tomorrow and said I was folkish heathen, I know a lot more people would join the channel. That would just be a natural fact. And I've even said in the past, and I'm not ashamed of it, I said if Folkish heathens could treat their women together, better, and they were tolerant of gay people, I probably would be Folkish heathen. Only because I ended up with the gods of my ancestry, and those are the two gods that are hanging on to me, and all of the gods that I worked with outside of my ancestral system. I might love a lot of them dearly, but it never just seems to last very long. I don't think it's anything in the blood, but I do think that, especially if you have a longing for connection with your ancestors, you're going to end up with those gods. And it troubled me because, I'm not trying to say I can have what you have and you can't have what I have. They could still go on to work with the Nordic gods if they're doing that. I had worked with the Voodoo on Low, and this individual would never work with them, never work with them, never work with them. And experience has taught me people that won't work with them are problematic. Are they hard to work with? Yes. Will they kick your ass? Oh, yes. But what will happen is they will establish a relationship with you. You'll do everything you can outside of a house if you're a non-initiate. There will come a time when things will just stop working for you. I think we worked together for damn near a decade, or however long it was. You guys know I've had 2 strokes, but it kind of messes up with your timeline in your own history. We will talk from time to time, very rarely, but it was never a thing of I couldn't work with them for X, Y, or Z. I never had a Loa tell me, whatever. But, eventually you just naturally come to the end of the line. People that are truly called, I think, like all other groups, they must call people for a while, and then, a lot of us wash out. There's no reason not to answer the call. So I thought it kind of odd that if you had ancestral access to them, you wouldn't do this, because that gives you a lot more access that other people not of the ancestral calling don't have. It's a fact. I don't have, that I know of, any immediate African American ancestors to call on, so it's kind of problematic. And if you're trying to work from an African traditional religion and talk to white people, dead white people, you usually don't get that good of a response. But as I shifted and changed and ended up working with the Nordic gods, my ancestors are falling out of the sky. And my ancestors wouldn't be racist, but it might just be a thing of, and I this is why Odin wanted me calm down. They're gonna come through what they understand. It wasn't that they were refusing to come because I was working Voodoo. It was they didn't understand that. That's totally foreign to them. Something that's European, that's where they come from. That's familiar to them. That was easier for them to partake in. I've had my grandmother start showing up, in dreams, and I've had my mom show up. Dad, not so much, but my dad was a horribly abusive person too, so I'm not too sad about that. And so, it's one of those things where, I'm still believe that, whoever wants to work with any god can. But it did lead to me doing focused research and excluding the racist who have co-opted the word. Excluding the racist. Most of them just are truly puzzled why you wouldn't want to work with your ancestral gods first. I would be, default. Now, there are a couple groups that are extreme, and if you don't have a DNA test and you're not 100% whatever, they won't let you in. But most groups, if you could say, yeah, I'm half German, yeah, I'm whatever, they'd be like, fine, welcome aboard, come along, and they would be fine. And basically, if you're all European, descent, you could damn well be a Viking. So we know this is a fact. People mingled. So, I got, yeah, mingled. But, it's one of those things where when the person would act out on the channel, I would look at Loki and I would say, what should I do? And Loki never once talked about a relationship with this person or anything, because the gods won't tattle on people. And I said, I don't want to kick them out because, they're a minority and they don't seem to have anywhere to go. And I don't want to be the person known to have kicked a minority off the channel, because then it looks like, oh, she says all this stuff, but then she kicked them off. And Loki would shrug and say maybe they're just having trouble settling in, whatever. But, it kept repeating itself. And, it's an also thing they'd play the Lokean card too. And I said, this is really not fair. I never want to go out of my way to hurt anyone, believe it or not, that worships Loki. Says they worship Loki. Sometimes you wonder. And, it puts the poor god in the middle when we have fights. It puts the poor god in the middle when someone behaves poorly and then someone else has to make a decision to include or exclude them. And I felt funny all day as I'm doing this research into Folkish heathenry because the Folkish heathens were the first ones to show up and greet me with wide open arms. Until a lot of them heard I was gay, until a lot of them heard mixed ancestry because there's quarter Pole in there. They didn't like that, quarter Italian. It is kind of, once they found out that in the gay thing, they weren't nearly so welcoming, but I'm sure there would be some that if I was dead set on having a kindred to belong to, I could find one. I'm sure I could. But it all comes down to, I was reluctant to kick someone else because I didn't want to one hurt another Lokean, and no one wants to be perceived as being racist, and it's a highly charged topic. And it clearly every time the person would respond, they would go, well, you don't know what it's like, and you don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like, but I do know what it's like to be the person of European descent left holding the bag and thinking, well, shit, if I kick this person off, I'm a racist. And if I continue to let them have disruptive behavior, I'm not setting a good example or providing a safe community for you guys. So I was kind of torn. And, I don't like to have to go into that with you guys because I don't care what color of the rainbow you are. If you're going to get kicked off this channel, it's because you weren't behaving properly and you were just being disruptive and rude. It's not going to have anything to do with who you love, how you vote, or the color of your skin. Believe me, I really don't care, and I don't even know if you're telling me the truth or not. So, and that's the thing. I don't know what color you actually are. I don't know, what race you are, where you live, or anything else. You'd have to go out of your way to provide proof, and I really don't care. I go, ooh, back here. So, it's been weird, and I decided, folkish heathenry is why everyone else then steps on eggshells to include people. But at least from the research I saw, some are just damn well puzzled why people wouldn't worship their own ancestral gods. And, and for me, you guys know, Italy doesn't want anything to do with me. Forget Poland. The Germans are the only ones that came, and we call them Nordic on this channel because, saying German or, starting to use the German pronunciations or something gets really interesting really fast. So, it's one of those things where you have a lot to navigate, because of the people that are racist that came into the community and came into the religion and working with the gods and co-opted, the runes and co-opted the Thor's hammer and co-opted everything else. Then I think some of us go out of our way to show we are nice, good people, and we're not going to kick you out. But sometimes you have to kick someone out. It's like being a bouncer at a bar. It doesn't matter what color they are if they're being disruptive. No, kick them out. You're not being racist if you kick somebody out if they're starting trouble and you're of two different races, because racism comes in every color of the rainbow, as we've stated. And, they often said stuff that kind of, to me sounded racist and intolerant of people. And I was like, well, I must be misunderstanding this. I must be not getting this right. But it honestly came down to disrespecting the old man, which was wonderfully ironic because later on they claimed that the old man wanted them, and I don't know. And, the old man never asked for them to be kicked off. He's never asked for once for anyone who hates him to be kicked off. He's just watched me and watched how things unfold. He's never once come up to me and said, you have to prove your loyalty by kicking anybody that says anything mean to me off. Odin handles his own problems in his own time. So, it's just been a thing of I finally had to have that meltdown today, and I do apologize again for that. But I realized this person, will push all my buttons and then they delete their stuff. Like they never said it, but I have a record of everything you've said if you ever say it on my channel. I know who you are and I know how to find you to block you. Yeah, people like to ding dong ditch. They'll write something really real nasty shit and they'll delete it so they can't get caught. I can still backtrack you and find you. I can. So yeah, that's how people, then don't ever get onto the channel and they wonder why. Yeah, I can still backtrack you to find you. So anyhow, I talked it out with Loki and I said, I can't anymore. I said, I don't want to act against another Lokean if I don't have to, but I said this is problematic. Either they play the relationship with you, like I'm not going to kick another Lokean off or someone that works with Loki off, am I? Yeah, I am. And I'm not going to be mean and kick them off because they have all these problems in the community. Well, it's like my mambo had said, she looked at me and she said, "You are finding fights because you're looking for them." And she said, it's not, she said, "You're always saying you're innocent and you're never starting this." She said, "You're finding fights because you're looking for them." And she said, "You stop looking for the fights and they'll magically stop happening." And in my mind, I wasn't being aggressive or being mean or having a chip on my shoulder. It didn't occur until decades later that, yeah, maybe I was looking for fights, which seems to be where this person is right now. I think they're looking for a fight. I think they're looking to prove the way that they're worshiping is correct, and I think they have a chip on their shoulder for not being of European descent, and that's just not going to get them anywhere in the long run. So it was kind of weird. It kind of made me do the research into folkish heathenry, and I'm like, oh, most of these people just want to be left the fuck alone, and they don't know, why somebody will worship gods outside of their ancestry. And, to some people, that's important. There are people in Bhutan who are the same way. There are people who are Shinto. Anybody that's not First Nations anymore knows better than to even ask to practice. Okay? And I had seen somebody, saying they hated folkish and saying you can't use that all those systems are usually closed as valid reason to close yours. Yeah, you can. If we're all truly equal and all these other religions are closed except to people of the ethnic background, then yeah, you can close your ethnic background because there will always be other groups of your same ethnic background that will have a group that's open. You don't have to let people in if you don't want to. It doesn't really bother me at this point who folkish people let into their community or not. I don't even want in a community, so it doesn't matter. But, it was one of those things because we know Odin has certain ambitions, and Odin keeps coming over to me, and I keep explaining to him that one, I don't like labels, and two, it doesn't matter which of the two flavors of label I would pick up, as a true heathenry. I said, you can't be either and be alone. I've never seen the lone as a true guide or the lone heathen's guide. It's an absolutely community based thing. I said you can be Nordic Wiccan and do it alone. You can be Nordic Witch and do it alone, but I said you can't pick up either. I'm feeling like a hopeful thing, like Nordic Witch is close enough. So, he's being a handful, but he was not the one, I want to be clear on this, that asked for the person to leave. Nor is Loki. I had to make the executive decision on my own. And I had to decide, well, I'm not kicking them off because of the color of their skin. I'm kicking them off because they've caused repeated problems in the past, and they either say, well, the way they worded their responses was either, oh, but we're both Lokeans, or you don't know how hard my life is. You don't know my story either. So, I just Odin wanted to keep me quiet because one of you got curious of why Odin didn't want me to talk about certain things. That's why he didn't want me to just shout and get mad because he was afraid it would come off as incredibly racist and incredibly intolerant. It's like, I don't care who comes onto the channel, just don't be a dickhead. So yeah, I got back here. So if you guys like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe. And that was really, really interesting. I always thought, you know, when you come in, depending on who you talk to, for some people say, oh yeah, all those folkish people, they're they're incredibly racist and they're all skinheads and they're all horrible. And there are folkish people who would beat the skinheads up. So it was an interesting education. I don't feel called towards folkish because I really don't, but I did look at the scale of folkish and I actually would not be a 1. I would be like a 2 or something, and 2 to me was actually more liberal than the 1 was, and I'm like, "Huh, is this backwards?" Because whatever. But if you guys like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.